So let's talk about, on that happy note, let's talk about what the trends are to fill that gap. Okay, so I always love to start with the positives. Let's look at a place where we've done a great job. Okay, and this is the United States. I did this because it's less good. If I showed you this for France, it would be too good that I'd lose. You'd fall asleep and get bored of the story. So this shows you by penetration what the United States is using for electricity as time has gone on. So what you can see is the black is the fossil fuels, and if you recall, I said that we use about 70% of our electricity has historically come from coal and natural gas. You can see that nuclear is the next largest. In the United States, that's about 14–15%. We have hydropower humming along. And it's interesting to note that we've had this thing of wind and solar that have really come along in the last decade. And while in absolute terms they still represent a fraction of the electricity we generate, on a relative term they're making significant gains. In other words, they've hit that point of technology readiness. Solar is so small, unfortunately, it is an orange line that fits right underneath the little sandwich between the green and the blue. And the other includes things like geothermal and things like that, which again, these are niche applications currently that I would not necessarily put in the technology readiness category, but nevertheless, they do supply a fraction of our oil. So recall that nuclear had its first commercial success in 1956. In the United States, the bulk of the work was done during the 1960s and the 70s. So it was about 20 years to achieve that penetration. Okay, so you ask, what's the problem? Well, here's the problem. This is oil. Again, this is the United States, but if you look at the world, it's very similar. So if you look at our usage of oil, this is it. We've got this little blue thing that has displaced some of it in the United States, and that's corn ethanol. We've got a little bit of displacement there between the dark blue and the black, which is the use of hybrid vehicles and electric vehicles. And that's, you do the analysis here by asking how many barrels of oil have you saved by moving to a more efficient vehicle. But you can see that more or less we've only got one alternative right now to oil. But here's the problem. I'm going to get to this on a later slide, but it's worth mentioning twice. In the United States, we grow 90 million acres of corn, more than any other nation in the world. We're currently using 42 million of those acres, almost half of it, to make that much ethanol. I don't particularly like corn, and I especially despise high fructose corn syrup. So I'd be more than happy to use every single cob of corn to make ethanol. But the problem is, it's not going to move the needle. It's not enough. So let's acknowledge the successes or failures of corn, but let's remember that that's not going to be enough.